I'd like to thank our sponsors this evening for bringing you Vernon Vibes commercial-free. This evening's program will be the State of the Township as I present it to the Vernon Township Council on February the 10th. So again, thank you to our sponsors. I appreciate your support. I want to start this evening's presentation by telling you the finances of Vernon Township are in excellent shape. As a matter of fact, our most recent audit report showed that there were 2 suggestions for modification needed in the manner in which we did things, which was down from 22 that were suggested in the 2010 audit. That means that our people are doing something right. And that means that we take that audit and we work with it and we improve in the manner in which the auditors suggest be done. Our cash fund surplus as of December 31st for Vernon Township is $3.3 million. It was under $1 million at the beginning of 2011. And that has happened and allowed us then to apply $1 million against the taxes for Vernon Township residents for property tax, local property tax purposes. The appropriations for each of our 10 departments are down in 2014 from 2013. And yes, I know that the information and the budget drafts that were presented to you indicated that there was an increase, there would be an increase in total appropriations. I think it's important to point out to the public as well as to the council that those are generated by things that have absolutely nothing to do with the actual running of various departments in the township, but rather are caused by things such as Obamacare, which added $90,000 in federal tax to our health insurance plan, so that we, in fact, instead of having a decrease in that premium as was anticipated, have a $78,000 or $82,000 increase. In addition, last year we started with the idea of a sinking fund, using the part of the part of the cash fund surplus to be set aside to address the increase in interest that will be generated by the permanent bonds of the township that were in place when we got here. We plan to do that again in the 2014 budget, so that at the end of this year, there'll be $300,000 in that fund, and it will help to stabilize the tax rate in Vernon Township. Our debt is being managed for the first time in more than a decade, as opposed to the debt managing us. And what I mean by that is that our new CFO, upon my request, has done a projection of the actual cost on a yearly basis from now until the year 2025. And in fact, including the information that was presented to you tonight in the capital budget, and in fact, anticipating the need to do some some bonding to bring water to the town center, we will maintain roughly a payment of $2.1 million per year to handle our debt, and that will stay the same over the next 10 years, give or take $100,000. That's certainly within the purview of this township to handle without having a significant impact on the taxes that our people pay for local purposes. And while I'm on that subject, I think it's important to point out that for the last 2 years, taxes for local purposes have gone down. And I've had people come up to me and say, well, that's just not true. Overall taxes haven't gone down. As a matter of fact, in this township, out of every dollar that we collect, 60 cents goes for education, 20 cents goes for the county purposes, 18 cents goes to run the township, and another 2 cents has to be set aside called Reserve for Uncollected Taxes. And what that is for is to be sure that we have enough money in our budget to see to it that the school and the county get 100% of their budget, whether we collect it or not. In essence, the state law places upon the local government the responsibility to see that the school and the county get 100% of the funding that they adopt. And if it just so happens that Vernon doesn't have a good collection in taxes in a given year, we have to make that up out of the local budget. That's the way the law is. At present, as we talk this evening, there are 119 employees working in Vernon Township. In December of 2010, there were 153 employees working in Vernon Township. There has not been a layoff. There has not been a mass exodus, but rather a planned analysis of the attrition that has occurred due to retirements, due to people who have been promoted, for example, to other towns. Our former business administrator, Jerry Jimes, is now the manager in Scotch Plains. Our former purchasing agent is now the CFO for Randolph Township. That speaks to the kind of job and the kind of training and the kind of experience that they had in Vernon Township. And when they left us, as others did through either retirement or seeking jobs elsewhere, we used the funds available to, in fact, distribute and to, in fact, hire individuals at a lower rate. Now, there's no question that we are undermanned in the police department, and I've addressed that throughout 2013, and we're taking steps to address it. One of the unspoken things that we have not talked about is the undermanning of our DPW. Earlier this evening, I was asked by this council, do we have the wherewithal to handle the snowstorms? The fact of the matter is, as I stand before you this evening, there are five of our 24 plowing trucks that are out of commission, 2 of which are permanent. You all know that we bonded for one and ordered it back in late August of this year. We're still waiting for delivery, and there's another on the budget for 2014. And so the fact of the matter is, we're in need of some equipment in the DPW, we're in need of some personnel. One of the shared services that we provide is to the Vernon Township MUA. And what started out as apparently going to be a roughly 16 hours of man-hours of work per week by 2 of our DPW employees ends up being a whole lot more than that. As a matter of fact, close to full-time, maintaining the pump stations, maintaining the lift stations, and doing the other things that are attendant to maintaining the sewer system. Now, that being the case, we are going to look in 2014 to revisit the contract in terms of labor for the MUA and to charge them for the actual hours that our people put in maintaining the sewer, and use that money to, in fact, hire some additional people into the road department. I think it's clear from the budget that has been presented to you that the things that have been achieved over the last 2 years, and we will continue to achieve in 2014, have been done without raising property taxes for local purposes, and that there has not been one layoff, but rather we have achieved the savings through normal attrition, applying good business principles. In the area of grants, we had a very successful year in 2013. As a matter of fact, we were the recipient of 6 grants that we pursued, and they included the Drive Sober Grant, the Clean Communities Grant, the Municipal Alliance Grant, the State Body Armor Grant, the Firefighters Assistance Grants, which you would recognize as the money from FEMA to improve our radio communication system, and the No Net Loss Forestry Grant from the Department of Forestry, the New Jersey DEP. Those 6 grants brought in $458,105.12 in revenue to Vernon Township, money that would have had to be expended or might have been expended depending on how the council voted. In addition, we have been approved for a $40,000 grant from the New Jersey Highlands Council. That grant is to do a feasibility study to see the feasibility of creating a transfer of development rights program for in and for Vernon Township. Anyone who knows what the Highlands Act did knows that it stole the development value of large landowners throughout the Highlands region. And many of our farm families and many of our large landholders have in fact been very vociferous about the occurrence of that, and obviously the Highlands Council acknowledges it because they are seeking receiving districts for development rights. And so when I saw that, we made application, and the executive director and his staff came here to Vernon, and we made a presentation, and that presentation was that Vernon Township could be a pilot for the entire state. We have the infrastructure, and we have the ability so that if someone comes to Vernon and wants to develop in the town center where the density may be 4 retail units, but really wants to have 6, they can go up to Mr. Kadish's farm or someone else's farm and buy the development rights from him in the free marketplace and increase the density. Now, there's a lot of things that have to be worked out, but for the first time, someone has addressed the issue of the stolen developmental value of our large landholders by the state of New Jersey. And we're going to move forward with it in 2014, and it's being funded by the Highlands Council. I also am happy to tell you that today, late this afternoon, I was notified by the Department of Forestry that our initial no net loss grant in terms of reforestation of Vernon Township, which was in the amount of $30,642, has for 2014 been increased to $354,960. Now, it's important for you all to understand, okay, that none of that is tax money. It is money that was taken, or I should say fined, of the Tennessee Gas Company for not living up to what they were supposed to do in Vernon Township by way of reforestation. And so I can tell you that this grant, which will actually have a lifespan of almost 4 years, will allow us to replant well in excess of 1,200 trees in Vernon Township. You'll be hearing more about that as we go through the year. As you all know, Vernon's Recycling Center was recognized as the best in New Jersey in 2012. In 2013, we continued that success, contributing $109,000 of revenue to the township coffers. That allowed the purchase of a commercial paper shredder, which will be available to residents early in March. It actually is on site at the present time. That shredder was a purchase of $11,000, and it will be available in our recycling center for residents who want to see to it that their records are in fact shredded and that they're safe from any kinds of identity theft or the like. Capital projects. 2013 was a big year. As a matter of fact, we completed the intersection of Maple Grange and Route 517. And when I say completed, yes, the construction was completed, but in addition, also we completed the condemnation, the eminent domain that was required for some of the rights-of-way along Lonsberry Hollow Road. And that has all been finished, and the intersection has been I think, tremendous asset to our safety. The drainage projects in the Baldwin Drive area of Vernon behind the Dairy Queen were completed early in 2013. And near the end of the middle of 2013, the northern part of Vernon Valley Lake drainage project was completed. Those 3 projects I just mentioned totaled well in excess of $2 million. The Maple Grange 517 intersection was a joint project with the County of Sussex. It included a $200,000 grant from the state of New Jersey, but the other 2, the drainage projects, we did ourselves, and again, without raising taxes. Also in 2013, there are new basketball courts, a new children's playground that have been added to Maple Grange Park, and the exercise path, the stations along the walking path, were completed. The DPW building's electric system was repaired, the generator was repaired, and we started the roof repair, which will be concluded as soon as this winter weather goes away. We created and funded a 6-year plan. In 2013, we began it to, in fact, repair and restore our secondary and tertiary streets, completing the Evergreen section of Sussex Hills, the Pleasant Valley Lake, and the Cliffwood Lakes in 2013. That plan is available for inspection by the public at any time, and as I said, for the first time in almost a decade, Vernon Township not only has a plan, we have funded it and we have put it into effect. We also, in 2013, submitted for the 2014-15 cycle a DOT grant, New Jersey DOT grant, for Phase 1 repair to Breakneck Road, and also for the Lake Wallkill Road. And in addition to the DOT grant that we applied for, we have also recently applied to the Federal Wildlife Preserve because we became aware that the fact that Lake Wallkill Road being adjacent to that Wildlife Reserve qualified it for federal funding to repair the road. And so it is our hope and our intent that we'll succeed. I will obviously be keeping you apprised of those applications as they come to fruition or not. All of you are aware that near the end of October of 2013, Police Chief Roy Wary retired. And that retirement led to a complete reorganization of the command staff of the Vernon Township Police Department. And as it stands now, our chief is Randy Mills, former Lieutenant Randy Mills. Our captain is former Lieutenant Steve Moran. Our lieutenants are former Sergeant Brian Jernick and former Sergeant Dan Young. And they form the core of what I think is a very, very excellent management team for the Vernon Township Police. We are presently awaiting the certification of the civil service list for sergeants. We have several sergeants' positions that need to be filled. And we have actually been waiting almost a year and a half. Lord knows when we'll see it. But when we do, we'll be coming forward with that information for you and for the public. During 2013, our police department achieved some firsts. We appointed the first African-American patrolman in the history of this township. We also appointed the first Hispanic patrolman in the history of this township, and recently appointed a female patrol officer, the first in over a decade. We're proud of that because the demographics of this community are changing. And the fact of the matter is that the two officers that I mentioned are African-American, Brian Patterson, and our Hispanic, Manny Ramirez. Both are seasoned, experienced, former Patterson policemen who are, in fact, working diligently to make an impact on that scourge of heroin that is just sweeping the country and affecting Vernon Township. At present, all of our police cruisers are equipped with audio and video recording. When the red lights go on, the recording begins. And that's for the safety of our public as well as the safety of our patrolmen. I would share with you that at first blush, some of our patrolmen weren't too happy about it until they had situations in which there were complaints lodged against them by a motorist that had been stopped. But they went to the video, and lo and behold, the professionalism of our police department was upheld. In addition, one of our cruisers is now equipped with a plate reader. That plate reader is very, very valuable to us in many, many ways because, to be frank with you, with the 1 million visits that occur to Vernon Township, somewhere in that 1 million are some folks that we wish weren't here. More importantly, that plate reader was funded by confiscated funds from drug dealers. It was not paid for by tax dollars, but rather by, and I'm sure this township is aware that there's a law that if you get caught and convicted of drug dealing or possession or whatever, you forfeit your assets. And that plate reader was bought out of those assets. We continued the planned acquisition of police cruisers. We made a decision in 2012 that the right way for us to go was to, in fact, begin to purchase the new Ford all-wheel drive Interceptors, which were pursuit rated. And I would tell you that from the feedback from our police officers, it was a good decision. In 2013, we bought two in 2012, 2 in 2013. We intend to buy 2 in 2014. The objective is to have 10 of them. And while we've been doing that, if you take notice by looking out in the back parking lot, many of the old rundown all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive Dodges and Chevys that had holes in the floor and were approaching 200,000 miles are gone. They were sold at auction, electronic auction. The money was in fact returned to the coffers of the township and is being used for current purposes. We will end up with 10 all-wheel drive Ford Interceptor cruisers, and that will, now that we've gotten into the rotation, we will be able to handle it within the budget without having a negative impact at some point in the future. Also in 2013, Vernon Township made a decision to withdraw from the county dispatch and their software that had been provided by the Sheriff's Department, known as the Spillman software. The reasons for it were multi. We visited them during the year, but I would just simply tell you that by replacing that software with the LawSoft and InfoCop package that we now have in our dispatch center and in our police cars, our productivity has been measurably better. Better in terms of tickets written, better in terms of time for reports to be filed, better in time of recovering information from our police records when necessary. It was an investment that I believe was a wise investment and will continue to pay dividends to Vernon Township for many, many years to come. Also in 2013, we purchased and put into service a brand new tractor with mower on board and purchased and put a brand new mower on the old tractor, so that now we have two tractors available for the maintenance of roadside, the mowing of weeds and the like, which was always a very big bugaboo. We also were able to provide to the Vernon Ambulance Squad a brand new four-wheel drive ambulance. And actually, we got it at a tremendous savings because it was available from a town that had ordered it and in fact did not take delivery of it. That ambulance is in service. The ambulance that it's replacing will be sold at auction, electronic auction, as we've done with other surplus equipment. As I already mentioned, we also ordered a new international dump truck. We're still awaiting the delivery of it. We replaced 3 copiers in the municipal center. And because the Vernon Fire Company was in receipt late in 2012 of 2 new fire trucks, a fire engine and a rescue truck, the 1993 fire engine pumper that was housed in the Vernon house was put up for electronic auction, and the highest bid was $5,000. As you will recall, I came to the council and asked your permission to make a donation of that to the Sussex County Fire Training Academy, which we have done. That fire truck, and by the way, the training academy did not have a pumper to train firemen on up until then. The one they had, I'm told, was still being pulled by a horse and buggy. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what Councilman Lynch told me. But at any rate, that pumper now serves all of the firemen in their training in Sussex County. And there's a very, very nice painting or signage on that pumper acknowledging that it was a donation from the people of Vernon Township to the people of Sussex County, something I think that we can be very proud of. Additionally, as you well know, when we all came into office, there was a long-standing lawsuit between the Attorney General representing the New Jersey DEP and Vernon Township concerning the Lake Conway Dam. And Municipal Counsel Kevin Kelly undertook a search to determine who owned that dam. And to cut to the quick of it, it became clear after looking through the records of Lake Conway and the records of the township and what we were able to turn up in our search, that Vernon Township always owned that dam from day one. It was built by the Army Corps of Engineers, and it was built with the intent of flood control, and it was in fact deeded to Vernon Township upon completion. And so the argument that went on back and forth for all that time about who did it belong to actually was a red herring kind of argument and led to the Attorney General filing suit against Vernon. Thank you to Mr. Kelly for resolving that situation, and thank you for the job that you did. What could have been thousands of dollars ended up being a $5,000 fine or agreement of settlement. And at the same time, we are in compliance already, thanks to the effort of Corey Stoner, our township engineer. There will be other things that need to be done to the dam as we go forward, but it certainly will not be the $80,000 that we had anticipated in previous budgets. Also in 2013, something happened that I'm sure will be a tremendous benefit to this community in the future. This council saw fit to grant non-exclusive rights to co-locate fiber optic telecommunication equipment and facilities in the rights-of-way of this township. The future of our world is going to be digital. We all know that. It's already come to that for all intents and purposes. And fiber optics are what make it happen. There is some thought that with the advent of fiber optics in Vernon Township, the potential for developing a second industry to the resort recreation industry with its basis in computing, cloud computing, IT, biotech, small to medium companies might very well fit nicely in Vernon Township, and at the same time we'll be able to do it when the fiber optics are operational. So that's a long-term benefit, but you gentlemen were wise enough to see the value of it, and as we move forward, I'm sure that we will see some benefit from it. In addition, we continue to sell off land that has been acquired through in-rem foreclosures. As you will recall, in July of 2011, we had just over 400 parcels of land that Vernon Township held the tax certificates on. Now, what's interesting about that is, as long as we held the tax certificates, we were responsible for paying the school and the county taxes on that property, even though we weren't collecting anything. That number ran to excess of $1 million a year. As we have gone through the in-rem foreclosures and put that property back onto the tax rolls, I don't want to mislead you, we've foreclosed on 80 of the 40 parcels. We've been able to sell about 15 of them at this point in time. But every time we do that, those 15 parcels go back on the tax roll, and we don't have to take money from our local budget to pay the school and the county. Ultimately, as some of the larger parcels that we hold tax certificates on are foreclosed on, I know from conversations through the Land Conservancy that the federal and the state government are very interested in purchasing them. We'll have more to tell you about that as those things move forward. Also in 2013, this council saw fit to adopt a new zoning ordinance. That zoning ordinance, in fact, added design standards for the C2 zones in Vernon and the town center, making the 5 mini zones that were once the town center go away, and making it much easier for business people who are interested in locating in our town center to achieve that. Quite a list of accomplishments for the year, one that you and I believe, can be proud of on behalf of Vernon Township. 2014, let's look to the future, because we have some really heavy lifting to do this year, gentlemen. There's no question about it. I will be recommending a revisit to the Township Administrative Code. There are many situations in there that I think need to be revisited and need to be discussed and re-looked at. I also would remind you that we had a presentation late in 2014 from the Mountain Creek Corporation concerning their request for a pilot bond program, and the work has begun in-house on that, and I'm sure that we will be looking at making a decision about that in 2014. I also will be bringing forward a plan to bring water to every place that there is sewer in Vernon Township. One of the, probably the most important missing link in the development of our town center is the lack of central water. Because for commercial buildings, there are requirements for sprinklers and things of the like, fire hydrants. Without central water, many of the corporations that expressed interest in buying or locating there have put their plans on hold until that could be resolved. Now, we tried first to put together a consortium, if you will, of business people who would raise the funds to allow United Water to bring their water system up to specification and have enough water to provide water wherever there's sewer. That did not happen. Today, a meeting was held in this room between my staff, our attorneys, our engineer, and the people from United Water. I am requesting now that in the month of March, the second meeting in March, that this council make room on your agenda to hear the presentation as to what is planned and what it will cost and who will fund it. It will require some bonding on the part of Vernon Township, but bonding that will be repaid by United Water. Without getting into too much detail, I just want to give you a heads up that it's coming, it's important, and here's the real benefit that I see. I know that some of the people, not all of the people, but some of the people in the Great Gorge Village feel that the EDU system was unfair, and I understand it. I know that our MUA worked through that problem and have tried to address it, and I believe that they have, as they have with the business people in the town center. But the real bugaboo is the EDU system, because the Vernon MUA was faced with one of three decisions. The first one would have been to have two sewer districts, one for the existing sewer customers, one for the town center. That approach was tried in Sparta, and I would just tell you that at the present time, the problems that are attendant to it have become unmanageable, and our MUA decided that that was not a wise way to go. The second way was to require everyone that was going to be on the sewer to install a sewer meter, much like the water meter. My understanding is that that would have been somewhere around $2,500 for the meter and another $2,500 to install it. And so it would have saddled every person on the sewer system with a $5,000 bill in addition to their sewer rates. That didn't seem to be palatable either. And so the EDU was selected because that's the only other alternative that was available under state statute. With the advent of water, everywhere where there's sewer, everyone will have metered input of water. And as part of the contract with United Water, that will be provided to Vernon Township. And finally, everyone will be billed on usage. It's a very important step in putting to bed some of the complaints, many of the complaints, as well as enhancing our ability to continue to see that Vernon develops its commercial area. We've talked many, many times in meetings here and all over this township. The days of residential building for all intents and purposes are over in Vernon. If we are going to meet our needs for revenue in the future, it must come from a successful development of a commercial base. It must come from a successful development of a commercial base. And I do believe that we are taking the proper steps to do that. I talked about the TDR study. I talked about the manpower needs. The most important thing that I see for 2014 is to keep our taxes stable. Now, I know that the budget draft that I presented to you included a small tax increase. Doesn't have to be that way. You gentlemen and ladies had the opportunity to impact on it. And to be frank with you, looking at the cash surplus fund that we now have, and I only became aware of the exact number, as a matter of fact, this afternoon. I was under the impression it was somewhere in the high 2 millions, 3.3 million. We have the ability to see to it that the taxes stay flat for 2014, maybe dip a little, but nonetheless, we have maintained a stable tax rate. And if there's anything that will attract commercial enterprises to a community, it's one with a stable tax rate. I thank you for your cooperation. I thank you for the opportunity to work with you, and I look forward to a very successful year in 2014.